This is Inspirational Women, a weekly series shining the spotlight on female trailblazers making a true difference in our community. Once again, here is Kate Daniels.
Leslie Rasmussen is a writer, has written for numerous TV sitcoms, and took a break to raise her sons and ran her own nutrition business for a decade, then continued on into more writing and is the author of 3 books. The latest, and the focus of our conversation, is When People Leave, a story of love, lies, and finding the truth. Leslie Rasmussen, good morning. It's so wonderful to have you join us this morning.
Oh, and thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here.
Well, thank you. This is really fun because When People Leave is just such an amazing book, such a great story. I just am so in awe of how you could create something that just really pulls us in and keeps us moving through and not wanting it to end. But of course it does, but not without it still feeling that, we've really been given a gift of meeting some amazing people and again, reading a great story.
Well, thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun writing this book. I mean, I normally write women's fiction anyway, but I wanted to write something slightly different with like a little bit of clues and mystery to have somebody keep wanting to keep turning pages and find out what happens. But I really also wanted it to be a psychological view of these 3 sisters and their mother, and then finding out things about their mother that they had no idea. And that reflects on them.
And that's a really interesting part of it, too, is seeing that psychology. And, we think about that, I hope. I think we think about it. I do in my own life. The things that happen and how that affects us. And we kind of analyze it. Well, here, yes, with 3 sisters, you're presenting us with this incredible story of them having to grapple with all that and how it's impacted their life. We get to see it. I think in that there's a great lesson for us.
I agree, because I think sometimes we don't know why we make decisions we make. And that was one of the things I thought was really interesting in my life, is to go back and look at things even my parents did when I was a child and how that affected me and who I actually became. And in this case, there's things that they don't know about their mother, that they have no idea affected them. So once they find out all these different secrets that come out, then they can go back and go, oh, that's why I am the way I am. And I thought that was an interesting thing for people to do, to just kind of look back through their life and understand it.
And so did you base it on that being some of your experience? I think perhaps many of us do that. We wonder, like, why do I do that? What happened? Is that kind of how you approached it, Leslie?
Well, this book actually came because I was in the business, in the television business years ago. My husband's in it, and we have a lot of friends in it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, people that we thought were doing fantastic killed themselves. And nobody knew why. Now, I'm sure their families knew, but nobody knew why. And then right after that, there was a bunch of articles in the paper about teenagers that go off to college, and all they're telling their parents is how wonderful everything is. And then they take their own lives, and their parents have to go and kind of figure out why that would happen. So that was kind of the crux of this. I have 2 sisters. I've always wanted to write about 3 sisters. So I decided I wanted to write something that was so different from all 3 of us, but a lot of the little cute arguments they have are from my childhood and things that we still like laughingly fight over. And I like the relationship between sisters because there's a true love there, but there's also, competition and jealousy and anxiety over different things and how they treated each other, birth order and all of that. So I kind of wanted to deal with that also. So the book didn't start out kind of like with all these secrets. It just sort of kept developing. And then as I went along and realized, oh, these characters that I've developed, they're doing things that make sense now because of what happened with their mother. And so then I started going back and finding even more things. So it sort of came together, in, I don't want to say a mishmash because I had an absolute outline, but a lot of this I discovered as I was writing it, which was kind of fun.
And I think that that's where that talent or the creative process within you or within artists, it's kind of there. And as you start going, it just begins to reveal itself, and you pull at those threads, and something else then can reveal even more so. It was just so beautiful to see how it just wove and went back and forth, and how they took these little clues and went on their little trips, which, again, they found out more about themselves and more about their past.
Exactly. And they had to go on these little trips to find out more about their mother, because there were things they were finding out that their mother told them completely different story about her life and things that happened in her life. So they had to go on this journey to find out all these things that they just were shocked by. And it was fun to take them to different places. I mean, I had never been to Brooklyn, and I always wanted to write something about Brooklyn. I've been to New York City a million times. I don't know why Brooklyn came into my mind, and Las Vegas I've been to many times. So I kind of wanted to like take them on a journey of a couple of places that I thought would be fun to write about too.
And it is, and just for them to, in their very being in the individual lives that they have and how they experience that, and how realistically these clues about their mother presented themselves. I mean, because it just felt so possible the way that you wrote it. I read it to enjoy it, but I was also like kind of analyzing and being in awe of how you were able to really construct it. So you're so talented in being able to create
Thank you.
these stories.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I wanted to also deal with one of the sisters. I wanted to deal with abandonment issues, first of all, with all of them. But I also wanted to deal with different things that come out of abandonment. Like, for example, and I'm not giving anything away, but the first sister is now she's sober, but she's still struggling, and she's an alcoholic, and how her abandonment issues affected her and what happened to her when she was younger and turned into alcoholism. And then the second sister was one where she met this guy in college, and she's a therapist, and she still could not end a relationship that she knew should have ended. And those are how she wanted safety. She just wanted to feel safe with one person. And the third sister was like her mother. She got married very young, had four children very young, had a promising career before she first got pregnant, and gave all that up. And so how, her not wanting to take risks, how that abandonment fit into her also. So I just thought it would be really fun to kind of like take these three sisters, and in all different ways, they kind of had a lot of the same issues, but came out in completely different ways.
Which is just the way life is. We come from the same parents, but we're all these different personalities. And so it felt so real, so possible, and natural. So it gives us such an opportunity to read the story and then to see how things in our own life might have raised questions or are raising questions, and just how it's a journey, obviously, but can be such an important and really produce so much that's great, even during times of tragedy and heartbreak and loss. There still is so much good that comes from it.
Well, also trauma, hits people in all different ways, and so does grief. And after, their mother passes, they have an anger, like, why would she leave me? Why did she do this? And you can have an anger even when somebody doesn't want to leave you. Like, for example, my father passed away 9 years ago of health issues, and he was 85, almost 86. And I still was angry, even though I knew he was going to die at some point. And there was an anger there, like, how could you leave me? And not at him, but at the situation. And in this case, the three women, they're very upset. They had a very close relationship with their mother, but they're also grieving in a different way because of what she did. And because of the things that she's left them to find out, there's a lot of anger there too, which then turns into like, how can I be angry? I feel guilty because I'm angry, But I love my mother and she's gone. And so I feel guilty and grief. And to deal with all of those things in a certain kind of way when somebody does that, because I'm sure, I haven't had somebody close to me take their own life, like really close to me. But, you still have that. Why would they do that? And why would they abandon me? And why would they leave me? So it's an interesting way to look at grief too.
Oh, yes, it is. And for them to grapple with it again, I just keep going back to how realistic it feels, that in the time frame that it takes, it doesn't feel like they're rushing, and it doesn't feel long and drawn out, but just anyway, it's paced so well as to how things unfold, because I guess, from that perspective of needing to have the book be complete within so many pages and chapters, you need to resolve it. But it just really, I was enthralled with how it did evolve so naturally that it didn't feel contrived at all. It seemed so very real.
I did a lot of work on the outline. And even at that, outlines change because you start writing it and then your character, you're writing something really quickly and all of a sudden you look at it and you go, oh, I'm going in a different direction, but I really like that direction. So it changes things. So I would rewrite the outline and then I'd go in a direction and then my characters would be like, no, I want to go in a different direction. So, and then as, since I'd never written, it's not a mystery, so to speak, in the true sense of a mystery, but there's a mystery there.
Mm-hmm.
I had never written anything like that. So then I had to figure out, well, what are the clues going to be? And, like if somebody's, murdered in a murder mystery, that's kind of different of what they're looking for. And you have the police involved. This was very different, excuse me. So I had to figure out what clues would lead them to the next thing, which would lead them to the next thing. So the pacing, you don't really know until you write the first draft and you go back and you start all over again and you read the whole thing and you're thinking, oh, I see, I either missed something or this does work. And I did want a happy ending in this book because there is some grief, but I also wanted a lot of humor in it because my background is sitcoms, television sitcoms. And my favorite thing to do is write dialogue. And I love writing witty repartee dialogue where they're going back and forth or somebody's flirting or something like that. Because I learned a lot of that from sitcoms. So every book I write may have some really sad moments, but they always have fun in them too.
And that's what you've accomplished here. When people leave, which feels like, oh, people leave. Gosh, that's heartbreaking. But then again, people come into our lives and we make new discoveries. And I think that's the thing that I'll call it hope. There's always this hope. There's always, kind of at the end of the rainbow, there's the pot of gold waiting for you, that kind of thing. But again, in such a natural way, I can't help but go back to it that, how it feels so real, so natural. And obviously that attests to your writing and to your talent as a writer, because you said you wrote for sitcoms. But was that because you had a writing background already? Was that something you had studied at college?
You know what? I studied communications. I didn't know that I was going to be a writer. I never thought about being a writer. And so I went to UCLA and I studied communications. And after I left, all I really knew is I wanted to work in the studios. I grew up in Los Angeles. At that time, before 9/11, you could sneak into a lot of the studios and walk around. And so I used to do that all the time. I was just fascinated by them. So I did not think I wanted to be a writer. I thought I wanted to be a producer, a regular producer. And then when I started getting jobs in the industry and started meeting all these comedy writers, I was having so much fun with them and they were such a blast. And I worked on the drama Hill Street Blues. And these people were they were fine, but they weren't a blast. It was a very dark show and they weren't really just, cracking jokes all the time. And so it sort of led me to be naively thinking, well, that doesn't look that hard to write a script. So I just started on my downtime writing lots and lots and lots of scripts. And it just turned out that this one woman that I met who was on the Newhart show, the second one, the one in the inn, she just took to me and she took me under her wing and she got me an agent and helped me sell my first script to the show she was working on. And so it just sort of took off. And that's kind of how I ended up in writing. So it was sort of this place that I always wrote short stories, but it wasn't something I ever thought of doing. And then I started writing little essays for Huffington Post. I wrote like about 20 of them, and they were all personal essays about my life, my kids, my family, and they were all humorous. And they started getting some notice on Huffington Post. And so then I just thought, I'm just going to try to write a novel, which is, I can be very naive walking into writing because I just don't realize how hard writing a novel is a billion times harder than writing a television show. So, it's just what I wanted to try.
Well, what a great try because, well, Yoda would say, do or do not. There is no try. Which
Exactly.
I just always love going back to that. But here you've really achieved such great success, I feel, in being able to create these characters who really feel so real, and the story feels so real. And as yeah, I've said that, but I'm still really in awe. And how you kind of naively, you say you naively approach writing a novel, but it's just, again, that much greater to have this result, that your naivety led to this.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because, most people say, I'm going to write a book, and they don't. And my first book, my debut novel, took me about 4.5 years. So it did take me a long time. My second book took maybe 9 or 10 months, and my third book probably took about 8 or 9 months. So I got better as I went along. But the characters being realistic, I love that you said that because when I write, a lot of times my characters are never one person. They're
Mm.
usually a combination of lots of people or situations that I've been in or friendships. And usually I'm pretty honest with people if they're sort of placed in my book, so to speak. But the only character I ever wrote that was really biographical was in my first novel. There is a father, and he was not my father, but he also had medical issues, but different kinds of medical issues than my father had. And after my father passed, he never got to read the first draft. So I did go back in and I changed a lot of the father to be, because the father in that book with his daughter have a very close relationship. And I had a very close relationship with my father. So I went back in and put a lot of things in there to be sort of biographical about who my father was as a person, which a lot of people wouldn't know that, but people who knew me really well, especially from my childhood, they knew things in there that were my father and me.
Actually, that's so beautiful because there's that a tribute in that. It's
Mhm.
keeping him, just his presence, his energy here, and and it doesn't matter that everybody knows that, but for you, I think that must feel really gratifying.
It did, and I dedicated the book to him.
Oh,
My third book's dedicated to my mother, but I wanted to dedicate it to him because there was something I just knew that he was the writer in the family. And
mm.
and he would come to every sitcom I ever wrote. He'd be there watching it get shot, and he was just so supportive. Both my parents were and are. My mom's still alive. But I just wanted to do something to like so I would know every time I looked at that book that my father
Mm.
was in it.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Your sensitivity in that way and the honoring, I think that's what comes through and why the characters just feel like people you can relate to or would want to be around, appreciate in some way and understand. So that's lovely. Thank you for sharing that,
Thank
Leslie.
you. That's my goal is that somebody, whoever reads my book, say, "Oh, I know somebody like that," or "Oh my gosh, that really affected me." And I really was, felt that.
Well, and I think here with the three sisters, each having their own individual, we'll call them, well, life situations. Again, they're relatable, and you know, d- uh, they feel so honest and real, like, well, taking the addictions, how to grapple with that, and even ending up kind of almost slipping off that wagon, and how that, having the support of her sisters right there with her, all of that, I just, again, feels so real, like you're watching this incredible movie.
Oh, thank you. And the addiction part, I have a friend who went through similar things, not the same thing as the sister, but I sent the book to her to make sure that all of the AA kind of stuff was realistic and all of that. And she said, yeah, she thought it really was. Because I wanted to make sure that I honored that,
Mm.
because I didn't have anybody directly in my family that had, alcoholic problems, but I did know her really well. So I just wanted her to, just sort of sign off on it.
Yeah. So isn't that great? I mean, there's that kind of research that you've done to make sure that it really is authentic in that sense, even if it's not exactly that person. Those of us
Yeah,
reading.
I always do research. My first book, I did a lot of research. I don't want to say what ends up happening to the father, but what happens to him, I had to, like, I went on Facebook groups, I went on webinars, and I, really talked to caregivers because I wanted everything to be really actually what happened. So nobody would say, oh, my, parent went through that and that's not accurate. I
Hmm.
never wanted that to happen. So whenever I write anything, that has anything to do with any kind of issue, I always research it first to make sure.
Well, truly amazing. And of course, one of the themes that we see in the book is the reinvention of ourselves. You've of course done that in your life, and I think any of us can see bits and parts of that happening in our own lives and how we do it. So I think that's another part of this that feels like it really is giving us a comfort or really saying, okay, this is life, this is how we go about it. And again, it feels really quite real. Like even with Carla, as she needed to move, how all of that was set up, it felt real.
Yeah, I wanted to. I also usually write backgrounds for all the characters, so
Mm.
I kind of know where they came from, and especially Carla, because she's the mother. And so she was in her 50s or later 50s when she passed away. So she had a whole life that led up to why she did what she did. So I wanted to make sure that the reader also understood her. So she didn't just look like some awful person or whatever for what she did and what she kept from her daughters. I wanted them to have empathy for her and understand what she had been through because
Hmm.
we've all been through things. And I think that's the one thing about my books that I like to do, all three of them, is try to get people to be compassionate about other people's
Mm.
situations without being so judgmental and just, okay, you don't have to agree with anything any of my characters do, but at least try to understand why they do that and have compassion for why they do that as opposed to, judging them and just saying, okay, I wouldn't have done that, but I understand why they did it.
Hmm. And I really appreciated getting to know all of that and the way that you wove it in, Leslie. Again, masterful in being able to drop that in just the right way. Like, oh, now I understand how this background of having to go back to New York in this case. Uh, just all of that was just so fluid and made so much sense, and there was the mystery too. I think there's a part of us that really enjoys mysteries and enjoys those mind puzzles and trying to unravel things. So here we get a chance to really do it and see it again makes so much sense.
Yeah, that's the one thing I also love to do is just find something at the end of each of my books. I mean, in this one, there's more going on during the whole book, but in my second book, there's something at the end that happens that sort of tricks you. Go, oh, that's what all those breadcrumbs that she was leaving throughout this story meant. I didn't see any of those until now. I understand all of these things. So I like doing that. It's just kind of fun.
Well, so we know when people leave, really, this is your latest book. It's such
Mhm.
a wonderful story. And, thinking of this season of the year when we're thinking of gifting, how perfect. And or any time because it's such a great women's book. Give it to your best friend, give it to your girlfriend, give it to your mom, your aunt, any special person in your life, even the guys. I think they can certainly get a lot out of it as well. But now that you've mentioned the second book and the little crumbs in it, what is the second book?
No, my first book is After Happily Ever After, which
Okay.
is really about a woman in midlife trying to rediscover herself when her daughter's about to leave for college and her marriage is it's a good marriage, but it's kind of having some issues and her parents are older. And the second book is called The Stories We Cannot Tell, about two women who bond over something that happens in both their pregnancies, and they become very good friends, and they have to work through all these issues.
So good to know that there are these other books. Once we've read When People Leave, then we're hooked. Like, oh, Leslie, you're such a great writer. I need to read these other stories.
I hope so.
So we can follow you. You're on the socials, of course.
I'm on Instagram at Leslie R. Author. I'm at Facebook at Leslie A. Rasmussen Author. And I have a website at lesliearasmussen.com. And I'm in bookstores and ebooks, everything.
Yes, and I think I saw that now the audiobook is out.
The audiobook is out for actually all three of my books. All three have audiobooks, so which is great. This one, When People Leave, just came out in October.
It is great because I like both. I like to read print, but I really appreciate audiobooks too, as I know a lot of people do, because we're on the go so much, or if we're driving a lot, or flying somewhere, it's just really great entertainment to have. So all of that's available. And so therefore, is there number 4 in the works?
There's number 4. I'm about 3/4 through it. And I can't say too much yet, but it's again women's issues, but this was a little bit more rom-com-ish kind of. There's it's a lot more humor.
Okay, we can take humor. Humor is good. Would we expect it sometime next year?
I'm hoping so, yes.
Yeah, okay. But this
I have to finish the first draft first.
Okay. Well, judging how everything is kind of, shorter time frame each time as you've written, who knows, this miraculous result. Who knows, right?
Yeah, I'm not one of those people that puts out like 10 books a year. I'm one of those people that really takes my time and puts out like, a book every 1.5 to 2 years.
So this one is this year's book. Okay, so we'll be patient. But I really think we owe it to ourselves to get a copy. But also, books are such great gifts, and this is a story that is sure to really just entertain along with inform, because as we talked about, there are just so many innuendos there that I think we can find ourselves or understand parts of ourselves or parts of someone else in our lives, and that has its own rewards.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. I love books as gifts.
So there, we've taken care of some gift lists for some people, right?
And if anybody does I zoom into book clubs. I go to book clubs in Los Angeles. So if anybody does a book club for my books, I will absolutely be there.
Oh, what a wonderful offer. Yes. Here in the Northwest, in the greater Seattle area, book clubs are really a big thing. So good to put that message out there. We hope that we get
definitely.
Wonderful. Yes. And this would there's so much to talk about in
absolutely.
Terms of, yes. So When People Leave, a story of love, lies, and finding the truth. Yeah, it's all of that. So filled with great characters and good story. And Leslie Rasmussen, I'm so grateful that we've had a chance to talk about different pieces of it, and I'm really grateful for your talent.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun.
I agree. Great fun for me as well. And we'll look forward to the next book, but we've got the previous 2 that we can entertain ourselves with. So
absolutely.
Many thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here this morning to meet these special guests who are wonderful writers and provide us with some great gift ideas. Please check this station's website for the podcasts for more information about these guests, and please share the stories with your family and friends. I'm Kate Daniels. If you'd like to connect with me, simply send me an email, katedaniels@hubbardradio.com. Enjoy the day and enjoy some special connections.
Thank you for listening to Inspirational Women. Tune in every Sunday morning at this time to hear about those truly empowering the Northwest community, all for the greater good. Sunday Morning Magazine and Inspirational Women are a public service of Hubbard Radio Seattle.